All right. Good morning, everyone. Um, we are happy to be in front of you all. Did you guys have a good conference so far? Can we give the policy office and the contractors a little bit of applause for such a great conference? Thank you. So we are before you this morning. We will try really hard. Luckily, it's an hour. This can be a really information-packed session. So we don't want to put you all to sleep after you just had breakfast. So hopefully you got a good night of sleep and we can jump right in and just share a little bit with you because many of you are new research faculty or may not have yet received an NSF award yet. Even though you haven't, we want to give you some tips both for the research faculty, and this is very relevant to you all because you are the ones that are running the research, but you also have to help your SROs out by communicating and letting them know what you're doing and when you're doing it and how you want to do it so that you keep your organizations out of trouble. So these are the takeaways that we would like you to walk away with. I think there are opportunities for many others. I should have introduced myself again. Just for those of you who may not have been at the session early on, my name is Rochelle Ray. I'm a branch chief in the Division of Institution and Award Support. I manage the post-award branch where we perform post-award activities, but my staff also does pre-award activities as well, which I will turn it over to Shaun and let him introduce himself.
Share the mic this morning. Thanks, Rochelle. My name is Shaun Minick. I'm the branch chief with the cost analysis and pre-award branch. And so our branches work really hand in hand together. My branch works on the pre-award side, the proposal reviews, indirect cost negotiations, and Rochelle's branch works on the post-award items that she will discuss now. Thank you.
Is this working? Stick with this. Okay, so NSF's oversight program is built on important and foundational activities such as outreach, joint stewardship, monitoring of technical progress of the research that you're doing, which is kind of performed by the program officer. So the program officers will monitor your progress on your projects, and that feeds into all of that feeds into the oversight that we determine that's needed from year to year for different entities. We have about 46,000 active NSF awards. So certainly we don't have the staff to perform oversight of each and every one of those awards. So NSF had to develop a strategy for how it would go about determining which monitoring activities of the advanced nature would take place. And so this diagram here kind of shows how we build on our oversight and build it from the ground up. And so again, with activities that our office does, that the program officers do in talking to you and working with you about annual reports and where you are in the progress of the goals and objectives of the award, we take that information and then our colleagues in the Division of Grants and Agreements and the Acquisition and Cooperative Support Branch and the OIG even, the Division of Financial Management, all of us are performing some type of activities at fundamental levels that will build upon how we determine and what we feed into our annual risk assessment to determine what activities we perform from year to year. In the pre-award and post-award branches, Shaun and I work very close together. Our teams work together on all of the assignments. We conduct things like audit resolution. We conduct site visits, desk reviews. We do outreach as does the policy office, as do other divisions within the agency. All of that oversight, outreach, the activities that we perform, indirect cost rate analysis, and negotiation, we do these activities, and again, they just feed into layer by layer what we do for oversight. And what I like about this particular diagram is that it is shown, if you can see it, it looks like puzzle pieces that are put together. And what I really like about it is that it's flexible. We can pick up a piece and do something in advance of, where we normally might perform that activity. Just because maybe we are working with an awardee and we find out they've got issues in a particular area, we are flexible. These activities are flexible enough, and the oversight tools that we have are flexible to allow us to mix and match and do things as we see that they need to be done, rather than when they're scheduled to be done. So that's one part of how we are able to kind of do our oversight and touch many entities over the years. So this is, and I think you've seen this before, but this is our CFO's office, and this just kind of highlight some of the offices. The Research Infrastructure Office, which manages NSF's large facilities and is headed by Matt Hawkins. That office is handling very large, multi-million-dollar activities, such as the university and colleges Atmospheric Research Corporation. So UCAR. They handle telescopes and things like that. Then we have the Division of Grants and Agreements. They also do some type of baseline monitoring for NSF awards. You heard yesterday from the Division of Financial Management and the activities and analyses that the Payment and Analytics branch performs. That too kind of feeds into what we're doing, and we talk to each other and they inform us of things that trends that they're seeing and things that would be relevant to our risk assessment. The Cost Analysis and Pre-Award branch, and the Resolution and Advanced Monitoring branch. We are the branches that are performing the advanced monitoring activities like the site visits, the desk reviews, which we'll get into a little bit more in a bit. So the agents in award oversight are listed here. Again, these four organizations make up the Division of Institution and Award Support. Each and every one of those offices perform or contribute to some type of oversight and monitoring. So for example, the policy office develops and implements and disseminates policies and procedures that are relevant to NSF awards. And then they also perform the outreach that I mentioned earlier that also goes into part of what we do as oversight. The systems office, Jeff and his team perform activities to make sure that the policies created or developed by the policy office are applied in the systems that the grants officers use to make the awards to your organizations. They also play a very key role in helping us to develop the risk assessment that we do annually that helps us decide and determine which entities will receive advanced monitoring activities from year to year. And then again, Shaun's group and my group perform the day-to-day, sometimes mundane, but always very interesting and exciting, depending on what we're seeing, activities of, that monitor on a daily basis where we're touching different entities through assignments that the staff perform. So this slide allows you to see just kind of who does what. So I mentioned the Research Infrastructure Office. They perform business system reviews. So that's a form of advanced monitoring. It's like a site visit on steroids where they are looking at every piece of an organization that is managing a large facility. They're looking at every office, their HR, their procurement office. They're looking at how they are managing their subawards. So it's a bigger version of a site visit. Then you have the Division of Acquisition and Cooperative Support. There are grants officers in this office as well, and they manage the awards that are for those large facilities funded and supported by the research research infrastructure office, I'm sorry. And then Division of Financial Management and Division of Grants and Agreements, again, perform several baseline activities that feed into what we do. So this strategy that we have is a risk-based strategy. And one of the things that I think is the beauty of how we do this approach this strategy is that we're constantly gathering from our monitoring activities, from talking with program officers through some of the advanced monitoring activities. And when they have issues, sometimes our program officers are the first ones to alert us to something that can be going on at an organization. If an entity is lagging behind in their funding and they're having large amounts of funding left over on a continuing award from year to year, that can be a flag. And sometimes program officers talk to us or talk to the grants officers and say, hey, you know, we're not seeing them spending money. And, you know, maybe they're not seeing the type of technical progress that they expected to see in their annual report. So that may raise some concerns for them, because you may have another increment that's due to come in a couple months. Maybe it's $1 million and you got $1 million for your first increment and you've got $900,000 of that left, and you're set to get this $1 million in the next increment. So program officers will come to us and talk to us about things like that. And all of this feeds into not only the risk assessment that we perform annually, but it also informs the other activities that we do. And so whenever we touch an entity, we can talk about those things and ask questions about them and provide what we call business assistance to you all to find out, hey, what's going on? We talk to your program officer. This is an issue, and how can we help you get to a place where you need to be in spending your funds or getting reimbursements. So this is a slide to show you how we make the soup as far as our risk assessment. And again, this is something that we get help from our systems office in, and we also get, we have contractors that also assist us with developing this risk assessment and finalizing it each year. Each year we take information as of March 31st of that year to inform the risk assessment for the next year. So for this year, we're taking March 31st, 2024 data and information from our systems on awards and recipients, and using that to formulate our FY 2025 risk assessment. As you can see here, there were more than 46,000 awards. So that, you know, I like to cook, and so I'll liken this to a recipe. So the first ingredient that we put into that risk assessment is the number of awards that are active and funded. We then take the number of recipients that are managing those awards, and you will see the disparity. We have 2,400, you know, awardees managing 46,000, more than 46,000 awards. So once we look at add in the awards and we add in the awardees, we then run those two factors through a set of filters for risk, to adjust the risk criteria to determine who's going to come out on the other side in these categories. And category A is where are the entities that will typically be determined for a site visit. The category B is our desk review, our advanced monitoring desk review recipients. Typically, not all of them, but many of them. We usually do about 100 to 120 of those each year. And then category C falls into the baseline monitoring activities that are performed by DGA and the Division of Financial Management, and even some baseline monitoring that we may do. Any questions? Yes.
Yes, can you say more about other types of issues that may be red flags for risk assessment?
I'm getting ready to go to a slide to that right now.
Perfect.
Thank you for that question. So on cue, these are some of the risk factors that may go into to our risk assessment. So once we have the awards, we have the entities that are managing them. For the awards, we're looking at things like how much funding was awarded. Is it, is it a $100,000 award where there's going to be lower risk, or is there is this a $50 million award to an entity who's, maybe the biggest award was, $200,000. So we want to look at things like that. We look at things like different categories, budget categories. We look at subawards. Subawards are super, super, and will always be super, super important and a huge red flag for audits, monitoring everything, because what you're doing is you are receiving money from NSF and flowing it down to other organizations that are going to help you accomplish the goals and objectives of that award. So we've lost kind of connection with that money, and we want to make sure that you're providing proper oversight of it. So subawards will always be, I believe, a very important area for you all to pay attention to. Institutionally, we will check to see if the organization has had a recent OIG audit. If you just had a recent OIG audit within about the last year, we don't want to come out and burden you further. We want to give you some time to implement those corrective actions for which the findings were written, and give you opportunity to implement those, get them going, and then we'll come out the next time we see you. It may be a site visit. It could be a desk review if it was an accounting issue that you had, or we could just be reaching out through one of our basic monitoring activities. In addition to that, we also, again, we talk to our colleagues at NSF. We talk to our program officers. We talk to our grants officers to say, hey, what entities are struggling that you've seen over the last year? Is there someone that needs our help desperately? Sometimes we see these things through, again, our regular day-to-day activities. Other times we get input from the Office of Inspector General. Maybe someone contacted the Office of Investigations and, thought it was fraud, waste, and abuse. And the IG looked into it and determined, no, that's not what it is, but they're really not compliant in this area. They're really struggling in this area. And so they'll send that information over to us. Yes.
Good morning. When you talk about the amount obligated, is that by grant or is that by institution?
It is by the award. So when we're doing our risk assessment and we're doing our site visits, we are looking at specific awards. And so what we do is depending on we look at the awards that you're managing, and we're assessing some of the risk of that award. And so if you're managing a risky award, we might want to come out and look at you to look at those things. So dollar size is by award.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so this is just so our advanced monitoring portfolio, I'll call it, is really designed to be very flexible. As I mentioned earlier, these are some of the areas that we will look at. We may or may not look at all of them in a given site visit or desk review. Again, we determine that based on the award that we're looking at. We will usually select at least one award. If we need to get to another area, and it's not budgeted under one award, we may look at another award. So for example, if we want to look at your compensation and your salaries and how you're documenting, we may select another award. So for desk reviews, we're always typically going to look at your general management, and we're assessing your internal controls. We want to see how your organization is set up. Is it set up to allow you to segregate duties properly so that there's no risk of someone never going on vacation and, maybe they're, skimming a little off the top for vacation or something. We want to make sure that you have those internal controls in place that will allow, again, for the financial and administrative success of an award. The risk is, again, something that we assess at the risk assessment level. There are situations, there may be a situation where we've originally selected an organization for a desk review. And when our contractor performs that desk review, they come back and tell us, we found this and it's bad. And we can, again, because of the flexibility of the program, we can stop that desk review or continue it, and then pivot quickly to, we're going to take this organization off the site visit list and we're going to plug this organization in because they need our help now. And we need to, get boots on the ground. So it's a very flexible system. And I think that's one of the beauties of it, is the ability to pivot very quickly. So another example of some of the one of the post-award advanced monitoring activities we perform are targeted review assessments. And we are currently performing these for organizations that were recently awarded the new Engines awards by NSF. Engines is a new program at NSF. It is has been determined, it was identified early on by the IG as something that they were going to be very interested in looking at. And so we decided that we needed to make sure that we were very proactive about how we look at those. And when we look at those, usually when we make an award to an organization, we will wait 1 year at least to get them some time under their belt to spend money and to get settled and going about the process of the award and spending funds. We didn't do that with Engines. This year, we immediately started working on a plan even before the awards were made about how we were going to provide oversight for them, because we know that the IG is going in. We wanted to be a little proactive to go in and see, hey, what areas are these awardees struggling in? Some of them are nonprofits, some of them are IHEs, some of them are for-profits. And so we wanted to make sure, with such a mixed bag of organizations managing what we consider NSF very risky awards, because one, it's a new program, and two, we know that it has some qualities or characteristics for what they're doing in innovation, to make sure we got in front of these organizations to help them be successful. So again, providing that business assistance while also making sure that they understand the compliance requirements and that they are set up for success, both technically, financially, and administratively. Targeted reviews are not activities that we perform on site. We do them from our desk. So what will typically happen is we will select a list of organizations. We will send a request for policies and procedures in different areas, depending on budgeted amounts or areas that we're interested in looking at. We get those internal controls back from you all, and we take a look at those to make sure that your policies and procedures align with the federal requirements, that they align with the terms and conditions of your awards. And we then provide feedback to you based on what we found, what we assessed. You will get a formal notification. It may have recommendations in it. And we follow up with you to make sure that those recommendations are implemented. Again, because this is part of the business assistance we do, and it is for your benefit to make sure that you're able to manage and oversee these awards successfully. Any questions?
Are you going to talk about travel? Someone's asking, when it comes to travel, what do you look at? What are some of the factors you look at?
We will get to travel in the cost allowability section.
And
if I don't, remind me.
And another one, I'll remind you, hopefully. And what factors are red flags for you when working with contractors? If the recipient's working with contractors?
Working with contractors as award recipients?
Yes. If the recipient is working with contractors on their award, is there anything you look for? Are there any red flags that they need to be aware of? Crossing their T's anywhere?
I can't think of any.
Just to ensure that they're actually contractors and not employees, but you want to kind of stick into that contractor category. A lot of that will come out into your internal controls policies, and when we look at the time and effort reporting, and so just that designation kind of will make us dig a little bit deeper. So usually when we find one strand, then we'll keep pulling on that one strand. It just kind of make sure that they're actually contractors and not employees.
I would say the other thing is just to make sure that they're a contractor too. Make sure you have policies and procedures to distinguish between a subrecipient and a contractor. That would stick out for me. All right. All right, so our site visits. Site visits, again, are that category A. So it's going to be a very small percentage of NSF awardees from year to year that we do site visits for. We perform 30, and I will celebrate my team this real quickly. This is the first year since pre-COVID, that we were able to actually complete 30 visits. And we were able to do more on site. We're trying to do a balance of virtual and in person. We like to do the in-person ones for those organizations where we know of particular issues that are significant, just so that we can be in front of you and really provide that touch and that one-on-one business assistance to make sure that you're understanding. Sometimes things get lost in translation in Zoom sometimes. So, but we do virtual. So if we will typically reach out somewhere around September, October to begin the process of notifying the organizations that we've selected for site visits. Again, it's going to be 30 organizations. We also select a few backup entities because every year something happens, an entity is being audited and they can't handle both, or they've transitioned to a new financial system and we won't have the data that we need to look at. So again, we build in that flexibility. You will be contacted by Victor Velez, who's the team lead for advanced monitoring. And Victor will ask you for some preferences. What's your, preferred time of year? We try to, be flexible and make sure we're not going to be there when you have auditors on site. If there's an OIG audit going on, and when you're contacted, please let us know that too. We typically know because we run that list by the IG. To make sure we're not stepping on each other's toes. But please do let them know if you have other auditors there from another organization and it's going to be too much. We also, so we will get that information back from you. While we're waiting to hear your preferences, we are now working with our teams to find out what what their preferences are, what's their schedules, and we will develop 30 teams of made up of grants officers from the Division of Grants and Agreements and one of our cost analysts. And then we will just, from there, the cost analysts and the DGA team work together to start identifying different risks, different issues. We will do a risk assessment that involves looking at your single audit if you have one. We will look at any other monitoring activities that were performed by our office. And maybe some other offices. We will get feedback again from grants officers, from program officers. We actually do a briefing with the program officer before the team comes out or performs the site visit. And from there, looking at the budget, we will determine what areas we're going to look at. Is it going to be subawards? Are we looking at participant support costs? Do you have a program where you've promised that, your goal was to attract, 55, high school students and get them interested in STEM. We want to make sure that you're meeting those programmatic goals, just like the program officer does, and they can give us insight into how you all are doing on that. We will look at your financial management system. Does it allow for the type of reporting that allows you to segregate by award? You shouldn't be lumping all of your NSF awards or any other federal agencies into one bucket. You should be segregating those and have different fund codes for them. Are you able to identify participant support costs separately and segregate those different types of costs? Is it a stipend? Did you spend stipends? Did you perform have travel for the participants? Different financial, assessments like that will definitely happen. We often will look at salaries and wages. As I mentioned earlier, we want to make sure that you are documenting in accordance with 2 CFR 200-430, how those costs are documented, make sure they are reasonable, necessary, and allowable. And that's for any cost that you charge to the awards. And again, the site visits is really where we really get involved in the business assistance part of what we do. We encourage you, when you have a site visit, please don't think that it's an audit. It is not. We are just doing a review so that we can make sure in a proactive way that you are complying with everything that your grant requires, terms, conditions, regulations, all of that, and your own policies and procedures. Important to follow those too. But we are not, we're not there to audit. We just want to help. People laugh when we say that sometimes, but we really are there to help. And I do encourage you to take advantage of that. Yes, Sam.
Are these site visits conducted because you see something alarming with this particular award? Is that what gets you out there?
Not necessarily. So remember the risk assessment that we did. The site visits are performed because, one, NSF was audited several years ago, and we were told we did a great job of getting the funds out the door, but we weren't doing enough to follow up and make sure that we were providing oversight of those funds. So from that financial statement audit finding, which lasted for about 10 years, came site visits and our advanced monitoring program. Not that a site visit can't be done because there's something alarming. Yes.
Hi, for SBIR organizations that may be first-time awardees and pre-award, are there any proactive initiative programs that prior to awards being submitted that could help do exactly what you said, set the organization up for success in an expectation of potentially being able to apply for and receive more grants?
Yeah, so I know usually at least once or twice a year we'll have an SBIR directed sort of webinar series where we kind of go over the step-by-step instructions on how to apply and what it takes to kind of be successful. We recognize that the SBIR programs are usually, smaller startups. And so, because those are like inherently a little bit higher of a risk, we do have on our website also some internal resources that you can go on our site. I think we posted the link Monday where we can get it for you, some DS tools that we can use. But yes, we do have, I believe we do 2 webinars a year directly geared towards SBIR awardees.
Sam, did you have another question?
No.
Okay.
So, and I also wanted to say that, when we are reaching out, or our team lead reaches out for those site visits, please ensure that the key personnel working on the business financial pieces of the awards are available during those times. And that's kind of why we want to kind of see what times works best for you. I know universities have schedules where sometimes like in December, everyone goes away for like a month or so. So just kind of keep that in mind, because when we do come out, we want to come out where it's beneficial for both of our schedules, so that everyone that is involved on certain processes, whether a grant and award, will be available to kind of speak and kind of talk to us. Thanks.
Okay, so trending areas of concern. So this, I would say, these are the areas where we find the most organizations are lacking. And so we share these with you as organizations that may not have as much NSF funding, or are looking for ways to strengthen their oversight of NSF awards. We implore you to take the time to consider these options. So when we initially started off doing site visits, we were chasing the big dollars. Like, we were awards and entities that had tons and tons of NSF funding. We figured, oh, they've got to have issues. And these were like large universities and colleges, MIT, Harvard, Columbia, those big organizations. And it turned out that that's not where we were finding things. We weren't really getting a lot of, stuff to work on with them. They kind of had their stuff in order because they've been doing this for so long, right? When we drop down to looking at organizations less than $15 million in NSF funding, we hit the jackpot. And it's a good thing, because it gave us an opportunity to hone our business assistant skills and to be able to really dig in with these organizations and make recommendations to them to implement things and improve things, and then for us to watch them blossom and grow into larger organizations that are receiving more and more, funding. And so if you are one of those organizations that are currently like under $15 million, I would say this is definitely for you. Please take this information back. Make sure that your organization has written policies and procedures. If you don't have written policies and procedures, and the person who knows everything, that runs everything in that sponsored research office, and there's that one person that knows it all, but they drip it out verbally. When that person is gone, whether it's retirement or God forbid something happens, everything is going to fall apart. And we have found that a lot. Actually in 2023, we had 4 organizations, all of them were nonprofit, that we had to work with our grants officers to place on what we call a cure notice. So we had been giving them recommendations and business assistance for years, over and over and over again, through different activities where we were touching them, and they just weren't fixing things. And so we issued a letter and said, tell us in 30 days your full plan with milestones on how you're going to fix these, or your award can be terminated or suspended. You don't want that notice. We don't want to send you that notice. So please make sure you have written internal controls. Subrecipient monitoring and subawards, as I mentioned at the beginning, are not going to ever not be an area of focus for us or for the IG. It is something that has congressional attention because billions of dollars are being passed through under federal assistance awards to other entities. And the further the more entities you're passing money through to, the less oversight NSF has directly with that funding or for that funding. So please make sure that you have internal controls over that. And as Shaun mentioned, we do have a website that has tools and interactive activities where you can go out and kind of assess, how am I doing with participant support costs? How am I doing with my subrecipient policies and procedures? Please visit that website and use those tools. And as always, you can call us when you have questions.
Okay, how are site visits and desk reviews related? Does desk reviews feed into site visits? And then also, is there a cadence for desk reviews? Can an institution be prepared every 4 to 5 years, for example?
So desk reviews can feed into site visits. But I would also say site visits can lead to a desk review. So it depends on what we're looking at. So desk reviews are really looking at a higher level, general management, your accounting system, whether or not you have policies and procedures for reconciling your expenditures versus your drawdowns from NSF. We can do site visits and desk reviews in the same year. So if an organization has not had a site desk review in 5 years, we will perform typically a desk review along with a site visit. Sometimes we just do the desk review because they've recently had an OIG audit or, they've had some other monitoring activity. So, but we see that we haven't seen them in 5 years, so we will touch them that way. Site visits and desk reviews both work pretty much along a 5-year cycle. So on average, we're seeing entities in 5 to 7 years. Any other questions?
Can you tell us some common policies that institutions of higher education sometimes lack?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Some of the policies that you all find, some of the findings you have, their policies are not up to snuff at some of the IHEs.
Subawards and subrecipient monitoring is one. I would say documenting expenditures overall, how they document, what they document. Maybe some effort reporting. I don't think so much effort reporting has been such a big area over the years, but for new organizations, you do have to have some way that you're documenting your compensation policies and procedures. And also accounting. Sometimes we go out and people don't have accounting. They'll have a piece of paper here, a piece of paper there, and they're not in one manual. And yeah, it's hard for your staff to keep up with something and what you require and how you enter things into the accounting system and do those reports if it's not all in one place. So that's another area. Okay. All right. So audit resolution. I think I've talked about this just a little bit maybe on Monday, but we do perform audit resolution for OIG audits and single audits. And because of that, we are often shifting or modifying how we perform some of our oversight activities based on things that we see in audit resolution, right? So if you get an OIG audit, what I want to tell you is please cooperate. Be nice. Audits are a good thing when they're done properly. And I will say, I've been working with OIG since 2007, and the strides and the accomplishments they've made in improving and doing just really great audits and really working with the awardees has been absolutely just amazing to witness. Not something I've ever thought I would see. I was literally ready to quit. But the audits are very fair. They're there to help you. They're there to identify areas where you need to improve. And the reason I believe that they are good for us, and I say us because NSF gets OIG audits too, as you heard Philip mention, there are areas where we just have these blind spots. And because we've been working with something or in an area and doing it so long and doing it that way so long, that things change and we need to be able to make those changes to ensure that there are no gaps in our internal controls, and that we're not missing areas that we need to really pay attention to. So do cooperate with them. We do expect your full cooperation with them. Please give them all documentation relevant to any transactions that they ask about, when they are there and when they ask about it. If you have to go to the PI or to the department, give them all the documentation, because at the end, they're going to make you sign a document that says, I've provided all the documentation we have for this audit. And when we get the audit report to resolve, we're not looking to ask you for any more documentation. So if you go somewhere and the PI says, oh, wait, I found this, we're probably just going to disallow the cost. So just give them everything you have. Don't do the kitchen sink thing that Justin mentioned. Make sure you've reviewed it, make sure it's relevant and that it really supports that cost. And I will say, make sure you all have some type of meeting or some type of process where you talk about how you're going to engage during the audit so that everybody, communication can flow constantly. Single audits, does everyone know what single audits are? No? Okay. Single audits are audits that are required under 2 CFR 200 subpart F. They are annual audits. They're compliance audits, and your organization has to hire a CPA firm to conduct those audits for you, and it has to be performed if your organization expends $750,000 of federal funds, not NSF funds, not DOE funds, any federal agency cumulatively that has provided you funds totaling $750,000. So all federal entities you get money from, if it adds up to $750,000, an audit is due. Those audits are going to look at compliance. They're going to look at programmatic stuff. They are housed in the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, and that's how NSF receives them. We've resolved those, and we work directly, whether you are an NSF, an organization that NSF is cognizant for or not. If an audit finding or question cost pertains to NSF awards, you will hear from us, and you may hear from other agencies if you have other similar question costs.
A
Yes.
quick question.
Mhm.
Will that 750 be increasing to 1 million?
It is. I was
Is
just
the-
going to say that. Yes.
Okay.
So one of the uniform guidance updates is that amount is increasing to 1 million, which is a little scary for me, because that means we're going to lose oversight through single audits of entities that spend anything less than $1 million, which means we now have to kind of think about, for our risk assessment, do we need to do something so that we're capturing, some of those organizations? And so we'll figure that out. But yes, thank you for that. Any other? Yeah. Is it October 1st? October 1. Thank you. Okay, moving on. All right, so cost allowability, and travel is not on here, but I'm going to hit it now. So if you have an NSF award and you have proposed travel funds, as I mentioned, I think Monday, make sure that any cost, including travel, is relevant to and allocable to and necessary for the research goals and objectives of the award. So the IG loves to see things in the budget, like a trip to France, a trip to Italy, and all that kind of stuff. Let me tell you, or let me suggest and implore you to make sure that when your PIs are traveling, and I hope that they are talking to you, and research faculty, I'm telling you guys, talk to your SROs. Tell them what you're doing. If you've been invited to share and disseminate your research findings from an NSF award in France, at a conference in France, that's great. That's a huge honor. But you decide to take your family or you take your spouse, please talk to your SRO and figure out how you're going to do that and separate those costs and make sure that you're not charging the NSF award for any days that you are not disseminating information, because Philip and his crew will find it. I'm just telling you. So be very intentional about how you handle your travel costs. If that doesn't cover travel for you all, travel is absolutely allowable. Most organizations, unless it's in your own policies and procedures not to, you can change. Like if you propose that you were going to X conference, but something happened and you have been invited to a more prestigious conference or a different conference that's more relevant to the research you're doing, you can absolutely make those changes. You have rebudgeting authority, but talk to your SRO, even if it's just an email that says, I was invited to this one, I proposed this one, but I'm going to this one instead. The costs are the same, the cost are more. Just document it in an email. It helps us hugely during audit resolution and during audit. And it can just kind of cut down on a lot of back and forth.
On the same topic, I have a quick question. So basically it's related to travel. It's very personal for me. So I have lots of food allergies because of the disability I have. So when I travel, like I came here, I don't eat any food except for fruits and bread. So and that does not let me be alive and healthy and energetic enough to be on 5 days. So I kind of prepare my own meal. So in that case, this connects back to grocery bills, and which was mentioned there. So sometimes this is a shorter travel and I have family in town who cooks for me. So that's easy for me. But sometimes it's in a place where it's not possible. If I do something like that, like I go to a nearby grocery store, buy some stuff and cook, will it be, if I justify this in my NSF budget, is it okay? Not? What should I be looking at?
You should be looking at your institution's policies and procedures for travel and per diem.
Okay.
If your organization has its own travel policies and tells you what, some organizations do actual, so you need a receipt.
Right. We always do receipts. Yes.
Right. So it depends on your institution's policies and procedures.
Okay.
So follow those.
Okay. So, and if I have documented this with my SRO, and they know it because I have been working there for a while. So they know all, like they make all the accommodations for me when I'm on campus. So they know all the realities behind the picture, what goes on. It's not like it's crazy expense, but that came back because yesterday it was mentioned that, grocery bills. I'm like, I do probably have to do it sometime because I cannot eat restaurant foods at all. So
no, and I that's a good point. So we've seen audits where someone's had a medical condition,
exactly,
but nobody knew about it until the audit happened. I know we don't want to put our health business out there, and our business is our business, but in some cases, you might want to let somebody know or document it somewhere so that they are aware, and so that when the audit comes and they ask, why did you fly, I don't know, a nonstop when you should have done,
Right.
So, yeah.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Any other questions on travel? Okay. Again, these are just some of the areas where we're finding things on our site visits. We're seeing these issues in audit reports and audit findings. Cost allocation continues to be an issue. Please, if your organization doesn't have policies and procedures around how you allocate funds, and because of the changes in 2 CFR previously, it has to be both reasonable and documented. If it's not documented and you give it a reasonable allocation, they're gonna question it, and we're probably gonna disallow it. So document your reasoning behind how you allocate funds. Participant support cost. Another area, along with subawards and cost allocation, that's very big in audits and site visit findings and recommendations. So any questions you have, remember to ask early, ask often, reach out to your grants officers, reach out to Shaun and I or our team. We're glad to help you with that. And this is just kind of a resource to give you all an idea of what you should be doing in a proactive manner to prevent issues and non-compliances in these different areas. I see I have like 3 minutes left, so if you have questions, ask them quickly. And these are our keys to success. Again, we ask you to use the resources that we have online. The policy office has an amazing resource center online. Some of those include a seminar that we did or a webinar that we did on subawards and subrecipients. So please access those tools that are available to you. If you have ideas for additional tools or aids that you or your organization need or that would be helpful, please feel free to reach out to us and let us know that as well. Any other questions, Sam?
No, you can keep going.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.